TV, Part 2, 9:30 on the East Coast. Time for Michelle Medlock Adams, and we have her standing by. In our green room, I see that we are streaming, and all the servers out there are syncing up, and I see that we're recording. Chat room's waiting on us. We're streaming. Everything's fine. Bumper running, switching to Studio 13. Okay, good evening and welcome back to PJNet.tv. What an interesting segment we had earlier. And let me just fix something that I failed to mention. I can't believe it. Tomorrow, January 21st, marks the anniversary of the Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision. So that's why we thought it would be rather timely to bring on what a wonderful pair of guests that we had. But you know what? Tonight, right now, all of you just came here because you know it's 9:30, you know that it's Wednesday night, and you know that behind me is a likeness of Michelle Medlock Adams. But you did not come to see that likeness. You came to see Michelle, and we are going to accommodate you. Michelle, it's been a week since we've been together. Your phone is still working. Wait a minute, you've added some decor, or no, you're in a different place.
I'm in the same room, but I'm in the corner. I'm in my big comfy chair because I just did a Bible study online with my co-author, Bethany Jett. I noticed she was in the chat room. Mm-hmm. And so I just in a nice comfy chair because we were just on for like an hour.
When you said you just did, were you the one putting it on, or were you the two of you invited to speak, or how did it go?
We were guests, made a guest appearance, I guess you should say. That Mariah Holbrook, actually, somebody that we met, she came as a +1 with one of the Serious Writer Award winners. They're best friends. So her best friend won an award back in, I think it was August. We all met in Nashville. And I ended up sitting at the table, Bethany and I did, with Mariah, and we just hit it off, just talked about moving and God and miracles, and how she told me the story of how they sold their ranch before they were called to California. She said, I'm going to believe God for you to sell your house. And boy, I couldn't wait to tell her when God sold it the way he did in like 7 days. So we just bonded. And then she said she leads a Bible study online with women all the way from like 20 to age 70. And they're from all over the United States. It's an online virtual group, and she would like to do Platinum Faith, and we were just thrilled. And so she asked if we could come, Bethany and I, and just make an appearance. And it was our last week to meet together on this particular book, and we got to visit with them for about an hour. And it was great to hear their testimonies, and Bethany and I just to share kind of our journey of walking through writing Platinum Faith. And that was hard, and every time we write a chapter about whatever that particular characteristic was of faith that week, we would be challenged on that. We couldn't wait to get to the next topic, and they said that's how it was for them reading the book. And it was great to hear their feedback and just know that time that we spent writing that book, and it was hard. It was very hard. That was probably the hardest book I've ever written, and Bethany said the same, that it was worth it. If even just one of those women in that group had read it, it would have been worth it. And it's such a blessing. But also their insights and their stories and their testimonies just blessed our hearts and challenged both Bethany and I. We were just amazed. And I know it was a crazy situation. I mean, Bethany's still in a hotel room. They're not moved into their house yet. I'm still like, my office is totally not set up, and we're just living our best life however we can right now. And but we were so glad that we were able to join them. So yeah, that's what I was doing, Coach. But right before I jumped on here, which is why I kind of wanted to talk about Platinum Faith tonight, just because it's fresh in my mind and because I heard so many great testimonies. But one of the things that one of the ladies was talking to us about tonight was, she said that one of the chapters that really jumped out to her was the one about your faith shines brightly. And she talked about how, showing the love of God and just being useful for him and just being kind. She said, that's kind of an odd thing these days, just to be kind to others and let Christ show through you. And I thought, she must have been on Facebook today, because I don't know about y'all, but I mean, I kind of avoided it like the plague today. There was a lot of ugliness the last few days, and especially today when I just scrolled early in the day and I thought, I'm not going to do that today. People that I respect and love, and people that I know are Christians and serve God, we're all going to miss it sometimes, but some of them were pretty blatant. So I went back to one of the things I wrote in this chapter was in 1 Corinthians 13. I think it's in the New Living Translation. There's, love is patient, love is kind, that whole section. But there's one part that says, love believes the best in others. And I thought that's so strong, especially right now. So if you're offended at somebody right now because maybe they don't agree with you politically, or I don't know, you got your feelings hurt because they commented on one of your posts because they are upset with you about your choice of who you voted for, or your stance on something, because I see a lot of that right now. You just have to remember that love believes the best. So you got to love them, and just got to know that love believes the best. They may not agree with you on everything, and they may have said some ugly things, but we're just going to give them grace because God gives us grace. And,
Michelle,
and you may have to check out for a minute.
That's excellent advice. And let me add to that, because I have seen many, and when I say many, I would number that north of 1,000 political debates, and they go back and forth, each citing their own set of facts. And I'm still waiting for that one where one party says, I've been considering the points that you've brought up and realized that I'm wrong. And where can I sign up to get on your team?
Right.
The utter futility of arguing on social media, and the verse says to see the best in others, but folks, there's another side to that coin. We need to show our best, and when you start engaging in this type of thing, you are in a bilateral conversation with one person with a stadium of spectators. What do you think they are thinking?
That's right. That's exactly right. Dell, he's on, what night is his night? Is his Monday night or Tuesday night?
Tuesday night.
Dell did well, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, he called today because Dell and I are friends, and we do a lot of, in fact, we have a book coming out together this summer. But he called today. We were just kind of venting back and forth about some of the things that people had said to us online recently, and private messages and things. And it's just nice to know that I think misery loves company. Sometimes we're going back and forth just saying, I can't believe they said that, but that's okay. But in all of that, I'm led to this quote that John Hagee, I like Pastor Hagee out in Texas. He said this, and I wrote about it in the book, Platinum Faith. He said, we are indeed the light of the world, but only if our switch is turned on. And I thought that's true, right? So I think some of us need to flip that switch, flip it back up, and let's let our light shine for Jesus. When I was a little girl growing up in the Free Methodist Church, we used to sing the song, "This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine." Remember? And then hide it under a bushel. No, I'm going to let it shine. I think we need to quit hiding our light under the bushel and quit keeping our switch turned off, but turn it on for Jesus. Here's the thing I've noticed, though. People will say that they're letting their light shine, and that's a good thing. That's biblical. We want to do that. But if you let your light shine, and the only reason you're letting it shine so you can expose somebody else's misgivings or somebody else's sin or somebody else's shortcomings, then that's not really the kind of light you're supposed to be shining. That's not what God called us to do. We're not the judge and jury. Remember, I've told you many times, I think it's Romans 2:4. It's the love of God that draws men unto Him. So being judgmental, it's not going to win you any points. It's not going to make this person want to come to know the Lord. It's just going to make you look ugly. But so Michelle, shining the light for the right reason is much better than shining the light to show everybody else's ugliness, right?
But Michelle, I've had this conversation with some people, and they've got their proof text ready, Ephesians 5:11, that we are to call out evil. Okay, yeah. And I said, on Facebook? I mean, I think that, if, we have accountability partners in men's groups, and, we get in each other's faces and hold each other accountable, but we don't put that on Facebook. In fact, Stephanie Pavlantos is starting a new Bible study, but it's not online. You know why? They chose not to put it online because they wanted the women in that group to be able to open up and share.
Yeah.
Interesting strategy.
Well, the women that we just spoke with, that Bethany and I spent an hour with tonight, it was interesting that some of them didn't know each other. They were from different states, different parts of the country, and this is their first meeting of each other, just being in this group. But they said that they really felt like sisters. They really had become great friends. And Mariah said the reason is because they were so raw and real with each other. Our questions, our study questions, and reading through our real and raw stories that we shared lots of stuff in this book, and we were pretty transparent, led them to feel comfortable to do the same thing. And when you're sharing your stuff with somebody else, and you're not trying to be all social media perfect, You're not got this big mask on. What you're doing is you're just, look, I missed it this week. And this verse really resonated with me. I wasn't letting my light shine in the right way. And I certainly didn't believe the best of my husband when he said this. I mean, those that you become comrades, you become Bible study buddies is what I call them. And you pray for each other. Bible study buddies. It's a thing. You got to get those. And you lift each other up. And, being sisters in Christ, we need, it should be if it's not. Because we really do. We need each other. We share each other's problems and our loads, and we pray for each other. And we call each other out if we need to, but not in a judgmental, horrible way. But
not in a public forum either.
Right. Exactly.
Come
And you're right, Coach. I mean, that's just that's never going to win any points on social media.
No.
By commenting on somebody's post or writing an ugly post in response to somebody else's post. And I mean, it wears me out, and I end up muting those people because I'm just like, I'm not feeling my spirit with that today. But I also don't want to come off as Susie Sunshine and only say all the good things all the time. But there's a way to look at, even when there's bad in the world, even when things aren't going your way, there's a way to talk about that with the love of Christ. You can let your light shine even by having those hard discussions, even if you don't agree with somebody, but just letting God's love shine brightly in you. I've got a good friend in ministry who I've helped with some of her books, and she's got a big platform. And she was telling, I love this story because I so totally understood what she was talking about. Her husband, who's also a minister, was in this big group of people, and this one person just kept coming to him and saying all these things that really weren't biblically accurate at all. I mean, and kind of attacking him for standing for what the word actually says, and just kept coming at him. And she's standing there, she's thinking, are you going to say something? Do you want me to say something? And so she didn't say anything. She just kind of smiling and nodding like, can we get out of here or whatever? And finally they got in the car, and after it's all over with, and she said to him, why didn't you say anything? I mean, did you agree with all that? And he said, I didn't agree with any of that. She said, but you didn't say anything. And he said, you know what? It's not my job to straighten everybody else out. It's just my job to be kind and to show the love of God. And what he was saying, and she said, I got it at that moment. He knew that he wasn't going to win this guy over in a couple of key comments or quoting a couple key
one-liners. Yeah.
This man wanted to fight. He was there to fight. He was mad.
Well, what
and
fascinates
so it was
me
better just to show the love of God.
Is there's two conditions, and they're almost bipolar. One is that these keyboard warriors will go on a rampage, and then all of a sudden they get some attention, and they use the word so and so attacked me. Now I have problems with the use of the word attack. Attack to me means blood, physical contact. But they wail and scream, and I thought, well, let me get this right. You were throwing rocks at the hornet nest.
Right. Yeah.
And you're surprised that a hornet stung you. Really? I mean, you were picking a fight, and it amazes me how the cognitive dissonance is what amazes me. Yeah. And the other side is this. I've seen some pretty bold keyboard warriors out there. But when you see them in person, nah. They're really tough, anonymous behind that keyboard. But when they get out in the real world and get in a small group Bible study, they tremble. They crumble and they tremble. So there's both extremes, and this is one of the observations that I'm making, is that if you are using social media as your antenna, as your portal to the outside world, you are getting a very distorted, warped, and outright sick worldview. Come to pjnet.tv and let's get some reality. We're going to tell the truth here, but there has to be some wholesome there. How do you get stronger? How do you build up people? We are told to encourage one another. We are told to share our two things, our joys and our burdens and our joys. So let's do both. Okay. We pray for one another here, but we have joy. We have something in common that's above all of these God's looking down like, I knew that. I got this. If y'all wait,
That's right.
if y'all
Still on the throne. That's
if
right.
you'll move out of the way, maybe I could do something. But you want to do it yourself, so I'll let you handle it until until you give up.
Yeah.
But,
And the thing is, he's saying as soon as you quit doing what you're doing, then I'll step in. But if you got this
right,
covered, I'll
right.
I'll let you do this. I know I've made that mistake many times. I think with the Facebook post or Twitter or whatever the one you're on the most, it's good. It's good to use that. I mean, it's used for good things. I see people all the time asking for prayer. Something just happens. It's an immediate way to get prayer warriors on their knees on behalf of your loved one. That's a good thing. It's good to share a verse that maybe meant something to you that day. I'll be reading my devotions. I'm like, man, that resonates with me. Like what's going on in the world right now. I'm going to share that with somebody else who maybe didn't read this today. It's great for that. It's great. It's great to show pictures of your grandkids. Those are some fun things. But I
Well,
think that we get on there to with the intent of aggravating or disrupting or just attacking. I mean, there are a couple of my friends, Coach, that believe completely opposite of me in almost everything. I think we might like the same lip gloss, but that might be our only thing in common. Like it's just
yeah,
we don't believe
he
the
likes
same
that
about
lip
anything.
gloss too. Okay, all right, good. Yeah.
Maybe.
I know.
And so there's some, but I there's still something I can always find to say that's nice or supportive, on a post or two. Now, if it's a post that they make that's just complete in opposition of how I really believe or in opposition to the Word of God, I don't get on there and start spewing the word and saying that's wrong and you're going to be condemned to hell. I'm not the judge and jury on that. And you know what? That's not going to do anybody any good. I just don't comment on that. I just let that go right on past, and then I find a way to maybe be a blessing to that person somehow. I think we're trying to fight a spiritual battle in the natural, and guess what? That never works. The only way that you fight the spiritual battle is through prayer, and so I think it's time to stop fighting with words or, like you said, being a keyboard warrior. I like that. And start being a prayer warrior. You're going to get a lot better result.
I'm seeing that in the chat room. I did not coin that term, folks. That's not it. Google it. It's out there, or duck go it or something. You were talking about some of the positive uses of the internet. The thought that came to my mind, Michelle, is when you took off in your car that Bear was having some procedures. And we can use social media as a way of getting authoritative information. Okay, you would post, hey, I got here safely. And I saw that's from you. Before that, you would rely on so-and-so told so-and-so who told and by the time it gets to you, it's totally wrong, or it can't be relied upon. So there's a very real-time positive impact benefits, I should say, that social media has. But my father always said something when computers first started coming out. He says, and he was an old school, he grew up in the Depression. Although he said he always had plenty to eat. I asked him one time, I said, really? He said, yeah, anytime I asked for seconds, my parents told me, no, you've had plenty.
That took me a minute, but I got it. Yeah.
Yeah. You're no dumb blonde, yeah. Michelle. I see your roots. Not, okay. No. But my father, for being of that generation, he welcomed computers and technology. He said, as long as the computer's working for me. But too often we're working for the technology. And I think when you look at maybe I should use the word addiction. Is social media an addiction? How much it certainly siphons off a lot of your time. So then the question becomes, what benefit? How are we using that to advance the kingdom, or are we literally just wasting time, raising our blood pressure, getting anxious, losing friends, making enemies? I mean, it's a mission field, or it certainly could be, but only if we use it right.
Right. That's exactly right. Bethany, I've mentioned before, who's in the chat room, my co-author on Platinum Faith. I know that one thing that God kind of spoke to her about, and I thought it was great, and I've started practicing it as well since she shared it with me, was that the first part of her day, she doesn't get on and check Facebook or anything. That, like, when she first gets up, that time is just spent with the Lord. And I'm not really a morning person, so sometimes I would be in bed and I kind of have one eye open, and I would hear my phone go off, and I'd look and it would be a Facebook notification. Mm-hmm. Well, my nature would be to go right there and check on it. And then, 45 minutes later, I'm still laying in bed. I'm like, what happened in 45 minutes? Well, I started checking things. But really, the first part of the day, your first fruits, the Bible says, should be to the Lord. So get your mind on straight, get your mentality set in the Word of God, build up that spirit man before you go engage in anything on Facebook or any other social media, especially right now, because you're going to get yourself into trouble. And you're right. We need to prioritize, and it shouldn't be a time stealer from us. We should be able to use it as long as it doesn't control us and we control it. Yes.
Right. And, JD, either 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, his blog had a very interesting point, and we talked about it here on the program, but it really hit me. If you if you get up out of bed and go get you a bag of chips and a few, whatever, and then grandma has made this, bacon, grits, and eggs and all that and calls you to breakfast, well, you're not really going to eat as much of that good breakfast as you should because you've kind of filled up on that junk food.
Right.
Well, isn't that exactly what you described just a moment ago? You wake up to the sound of a Facebook notification. 45 minutes later, you're still on there.
Right.
Folks, that's spiritual junk food in most cases, isn't it? If we would be real. So that is the compelling argument that I think helped me say, if I don't have time to do my devotion before I start my work, if I'm too busy to do that, then I am too busy, and I need to adjust that.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. I think we have to make that commitment to the Lord to get into His Word. That's, if you made an appointment with God, you would keep that. He's God. I mean, I'm probably not going to cancel that one. But every time you choose something else over Him in the morning and don't have your devotions, or maybe you have yours at night, it doesn't matter really. But I think I like to start in my day with Him. I like to, first thing I do in the morning is talk to Him and say, good morning, Lord, and just thank you for another day and get in the Word a little bit. You don't have to spend 45 hours, just 5 or 10 minutes just with Him, just to set your mind right and get your spirit man built up. And then before you go to bed, last thing you should say is, Lord, thank you for this day, and I'm so grateful that you're my God. And please give me, sweet sleep. And thank Him for the blessings from that day. Even if it's been a hard day, you can always come up with 1 or 2 things that He did for you that particular day. It might be something small, but just give Him praise for it. That's a good way to go to sleep. I like to start in my day with Him, and that's better than starting in your day with social media, I'll have to say.
Mm-hmm. Well, keep in mind that your brain never sleeps. Okay, our bodies do.
That's right.
But your brain doesn't. And you can use that time to fill your brain with good stuff even while you're sleeping. Your brain's taking it in.
Absolutely.
Folks, there is good podcast channels out there with uplifting stuff. Soon PJNet will be one of them. But anyway, wherever you go to get it, consider, why turn the television on to a pagan, hedonistic, secular agenda full of innuendo and outright sewage when there are places? Find those safe harbors of refuge.
Yes.
And charge your batteries up. And folks,
that's so good.
I am committed, folks. PJNet.tv is committed to being that safe harbor where you can come and not find out what's wrong in Washington, D.C. and what, No, folks, this is a place where we can encourage one another. We can strengthen one another. We can disciple one another. We can edify one another and project it outward. And folks, and I'm so happy. I mean, I feel so good about tonight's program. The first program we had I love it when we have a first time guest. That's always special. But what a powerful story. But look at the team we've got of regular contributors. And Michelle, Dell's blog was on ingratitude. So let me take a moment to say, I appreciate you. We appreciate you. You're one of the busiest people I know. I've compared you to an octopus on roller skates. I mean, I just don't know. But you always take the time, and even when it's impossible for you to be here, you always make arrangements. And we've had some wonderful guests that have stood in your place that you made all those arrangements. Thank you for your faithfulness and for sharing your time so generously. And I am looking forward to what God, not what PJNet has in store, but what God has in store for PJNet.
Amen.
I think that there has never been a better time than right now There's never been the appetite and the need for encouragement and uplifting and strength and solid truth than right here. And you're a big part of it, Michelle. Thank you. Thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do. And thank you to all the people in the chat room for being the faithful PJNet family. And you're right, it is the best kept secret. I hope more people join us, because it's a bright spot when you can get on there and talk with your fellow Christians and brothers and sisters who are checking in on you and saying, hey, I was praying for you this week. I mean, that's pretty neat, isn't it? That's pretty nice.
It's a wonderful thing. All right. We'll see you about this time next week. Sound good? All right. Folks,
bye guys, thanks.
There you have the view from right over there. Let me suck my gut in. That is the Eagle's Nest, folks. The PJNet.TV live broadcast facilities. What a wonderful night it's been. I have got to confess that somehow, some way, it got past me that yesterday was Barbara's birthday. I feel awful. At my age, I don't really care for anybody. It's fine if you don't notice. Okay, really, I don't need to be reminded. But also in the theme of gratitude, let me just tell you folks that there is so much that you don't see on this screen that couldn't happen if it weren't for Barbara. Okay, there's a lot of details in this. The devil's in the details, and Barbara stays on top of that. And folks, we have things mess up now and then. But she has been a faithful servant for so long, and so Barbara, we appreciate you and what you do. Now you say, well, what about me? Well, each one of you, as I look down that chat room roster, I am so grateful, because so many of you are not just here just tonight. You're here night after night after night. And that is the difference. I mean, we're building a team, folks, and that's how you get things done. I want to remind you that we're trying to use the chat room as a kind of repository. So there's some things going on out there. We're doing some work with vinewords.net, and we produced a video for them. What we're doing when we find a post on social media that promotes the PJNet brand, and thus the vision. Okay, what's the vision? Well, let me remind you of our mission statement. We provide a platform for everyday Christians to share their walk with Christ. That's what we do. So we're put the link there in the chat room. So the idea is check those links out. Okay, now you have to check the link out, because anybody can post anything, right? But check that link out, and if you can, are so inclined, by all means pile on. Okay, share it, like it, comment on it, like the comments, do something. Okay, let's build up the team. Well, folks, that'll wrap it up tonight. I'm real excited about tomorrow night. Catherine Pacehour, who's in our chat room right now, and usually is, will be our guest. I won't say she's a first-time guest, but she is a first-time guest as part of her monthly commitment to be here and share her walk with Christ right here on that stage, or one like it, whatever we do. And folks, it's been a wonderful night. Let me leave by challenging you. If you are hearing and seeing this, I'd like you to ask yourself 2 questions. First, what is the boldest thing that you have ever done for Jesus Christ? And then secondly, when was that? I hope that we will never be satisfied with our answers.